and welcome to a brand new episode of Behind the Sounds. I am joined today by someone that I got the pleasure of seeing live a couple of months ago at Country to Country Festival in the UK, playing the Spotlight stage. I have no doubt that you will be on the main stage very, very soon. Please welcome Matt Stell. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to see you.
And you, it is great to have you. I know you are on the road, you're touring, you're super busy. How is it to kind of get back into the swing of things and be back out there?
It's great. The thing that we missed most about, when the pandemic hit was getting to go out and play songs live and getting to sing them with folks, while we play them. So we've really been enjoying, the past year and stuff with things getting really, back in the swing of things and getting that old chapter behind us. So yeah, it's been great.
It's so great. And I know, obviously, we got very lucky. We got to have you over here for Country to Country a few months ago. It was so great having everyone back after such a long time. How has it been kind of going international again? And obviously you didn't get to do a ton of that kind of pre-pandemic. So what's it like kind of finally being able to do that?
It's great, they kind of put the world was sort of put on hold and there for a while. So, luckily that we were able to be here on the other side of it and just kind of get back in the swing of things, man. It's really been great. And then, you almost feel yourself trying to make up for lost time in some ways. But yeah, it's great to be back out there for sure.
Definitely. Now we're going to talk about, I know you've had a super busy, incredibly successful past few years in particular, but I love to start at the beginning, kind of growing up. I know you're a very sporty person as well. You had a very athletic kind of childhood. What's it like? How musical was your childhood? How much did you kind of listen to music and play music as a kid?
Yeah, well, I didn't play as a kid, but I always loved music. My family was pretty musical, especially my mom's side was pretty musical. But I never, I just kind of, that was normal for me. I didn't realize that was any kind of like out of the ordinary kind of thing. And so that was kind of, interesting growing up around music and loving it. I didn't play, my cousins did. I kind of found music in college, in terms of like playing it. And I found that how much of a passion I really had for it. And it was crazy to kind of realize it was like, oh, this passion's been here all along. I just didn't really, recognize it as such. And so, when I started playing music, I was a little late on the draw, I started in college, but the passion was kind of always there.
What kind of music did you listen to growing up? What were your like influences, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, country music was kind of the default setting. That was what was always on in the background, and I loved it and stuff. But I also really loved alternative music from the 90s. That was kind of my jam. Alanis Morissette and Hootie and the Blowfish and Oasis, those bands. I love those bands. And that What's the Story Morning Glory record was, one of my all-time favorites. And I could go on and on, there, I grew up around playing basketball. So I grew up around a lot of rap music in the South and stuff. So I had to, kind of listen to everything, like you do when you're young and like I do now. And, yeah, country was always though, the bass line for sure.
Yeah. Did you always know you could sing, or you had like a music in you, or did you kind of just discover it, as you say, when you went to college?
I guess I always felt like I could kind of, carry a tune, but I never thought of myself as a singer. And then I started doing it and I was like, well, I guess I can kind of, do it. And then of course, you spend enough time doing it, you get better, you get around people that are, been doing it forever and are wildly talented and you can't help but to just kind of improve. But yeah, those just, like I said, it was kind of weird to have that passion there, but not really recognize it as such until later on, and music, and then also singing as well.
Mm-hmm. And what was there like a time in your, like a trigger or anything that made you kind of realize, actually no, this is here, I can do this? Because you had, I mean, a very kind of athletic career, you had a scholarship at college and all this, not music based. So what was kind of the turning point for you where you were actually like, oh no, I quite enjoy this, maybe this is what I want to do?
It was sometime in college when I started writing my own songs. That was a big pivotal point for me. I started writing songs just about as quick as I could, but play 3 or 4 chords, and I knew that I was going to do that. I kind of saw myself as a songwriter first, and in some sense still kind of do. But that was really the catalyst, I think, was writing music and putting it out, and then having a few people kind of like it, and then just kind of sticking with it, honestly. Was what it ended up kind of snowballing into something. But it was definitely had a lot to do with pairing up with the writing of the songs too, because I felt like if I write the song, I can't really mess it up. I can just do it different, whereas if I do somebody else's song, you can really mess that up.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you obviously haven't, which is a great thing, but I see where you're coming from. And did you, when you kind of started writing, was there a point where you said, okay, hang on, I'm pretty good at this is what I actually want to do for a career? Because obviously I know you had a lot of other things going on at that time as well. So how did you decide?
Yeah, I mean, so I started writing songs, and I wrote some okay songs, but I wrote a lot of terrible songs, and I just kind of kept with it, and had some success writing in the Texas country world, the red dirt Texas country world, and that kind of gave me the confidence to move to Nashville and be like, well, if I can do it there, maybe I can do it in Nashville, and so I moved here, and that was a great decision. I kind of sometimes wish I would have moved sooner, yeah, but having that being said, that was really what got my, kind of gave me the confidence was having a couple, number ones in country music, like in red dirt, like Texas country, really kind of gave me empowered me.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, as you said, you wanted to be a songwriter, and you still kind of see yourself in that way. Was there like another turning point when you thought, actually, maybe I can sing these as well, and I can do both, and I can be a successful artist as well as a songwriter?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always thought that I would be the kind of writer that wrote pop country songs, and I mean that in a positive way, just with like radio country songs. But I thought I have this indie streak, in the music I listen to and this stuff. And I kind of thought that I would be in an indie band and like country band doing that thing, and then write songs for big artists to cut. But when I moved to Nashville, I finally got a publishing deal, which, I mean, y'all probably know it, but for folks that don't, it just means you write songs for a living, you get paid to write songs, sort of. And that's how it works. And I did that, and my publishing company, we put out a little EP, and on that EP was "Pray for You." And when we put that song out, people started listening, and it took off. I mean, it just took off, and that was really what changed the calculus for me, and to being, oh, okay, well, I can, I got an opportunity to be the guy that sings songs on country radio, be one of them. And so that was how that kind of changed for me. And, because now I'm more of an artist than a writer at this point. And it's because of that, it's kind of that door opened, and, I'm a big believer in just taking the opportunities that are presented to you and be ready for the next one. And so that's how that happened. I mean, it just kind of, Pray for You opened the door, and I walked through it.
I love that. And as we are a songwriter focused podcast, I love to hear the stories around the songs. And obviously, as you said, that song really did take off, and I assume probably really changed your life and the course of it. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind it and kind of how that came to be?
Sure. I mean, I was writing that song with my manager, Ash Bowers, and a good friend of mine, Allison Belts. And Allison kind of came in with the idea of "I prayed for you." She had just met who's now her husband like a couple of days before. And she was like, I just felt like I prayed for this guy before he showed up in my life. And we kind of took that idea and ran with it. And that became the end of the chorus. And we kind of wrote it about those experiences, but then we made the character in it a guy that's like me in a lot of ways. And that's that's just kind of how that happened. It took us 2 sessions to write it, which is a little atypical. Usually we get something done the day of, but we wrote that song, and then we demoed that song, and then it came out as a on a little EP by someone that not a lot of people had ever heard of. And so that was really the way, my sort of angle. I was just making sure to write it from somebody who I felt like I could speak in their voice, who was luckier than they got, way luckier than they ever should have been. But perseverance mattering a lot in those kinds of things. So that's how that idea kind of came from her relationship. Ash, and he's married with kids, and so was able to bring his kind of experience to bear on that. I'm not, but I know what it's like to be that guy in that song in a lot of ways. And so that's just kind of how that all mixed up, and it turned into that song, and that's, changed my life.
Mm. And at this point, were you writing for yourself, or were you writing with the intent of, okay, this might be one of my songs, or this might get cut by another artist?
I mean, at that point, I was, that was before I had a record deal. So I was really just writing and putting an EP out in the world, as an artist. But let's say somebody wanted to come along and cut that song after they heard it. I mean, we would have entertained that until it started to gain its own traction. And then it was like, the song just kind of directed the course of everything on that. We then the labels that turned us down became, were, labels that want to have conversations and partner up and things like that. So that was, really, it really did come down to that song kind of leading the way on all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever expect it from when you came out that writing session? Did you think this is it, this is the thing that's going to change everything?
No, I knew we had a good song, but at that point, I'd never had any kind of success on that, writing on that kind of level, and so I knew that we all thought it was great, and that's really what that's your litmus test. Do you believe in the song when you leave? And we did, but you never know what that turns out to be. I mean, a lot of things have to go right. And so I knew I had a good one, but no, I'd be lying if I said I was like, oh, this is about to change the game, because I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you said, opened a lot of doors for you in terms of where you went as an artist. Did it change things for you as a songwriter as well? Did you find yourself in a lot more rooms with a lot more different people?
Yeah. I mean, it did, but that had to do also with, now at that point, then I became an artist. And so, I was a writer artist, and now I'm an artist writer, and so then, that opens a lot of doors, people, because, songwriters, as a songwriter, a great way to get a cut is to write with the artists in the room. And so, that quickly became, it opens some doors. I got to learn to be around some just incredible people. I also got to firsthand to see what the target is that we're shooting at, if that makes sense. So when you're writing a song, it's like, what are you writing it for? Are you trying to write the best song you think you can write? Which, you always want to do your best, but that's a different thing than writing the best song for a specific audience, which is in this case, radio country music. And so once that happened, then you can kind of focus in a little more, and that's a big part of the learning curve. And then, obviously another huge part of it, maybe the biggest, is it gives you confidence. You have something that works, and it gives you, the kind of confidence to believe in your craft and trust yourself. And that's very important. That was a huge part of that, is from just growing as a writer, that and being in rooms with awesome people.
Yeah, I love that. And it obviously came at a time it went really successful, and then you go to release the Everywhere But On EP, which amazingly, and I love talking to people about anything that was released during a pandemic, because it's not normal. Obviously none of this was normal, but when you release music, you have an album cycle or whatever, and you promo, release, tour, etc. When you released that EP, kind of literally in the midst of it all, did you have any expectations that it would do as well as it did?
I mean, no. I mean, it's not it's hard to I mean, I had high hopes, and I had songs on there that I love. But it's still even now, really, it almost feels like sometimes the kind of like success that a song has after you write it is still something that I'm not like, don't stake my flag in the ground, because I've been wrong about what's a hit and I've been wrong about what's not a hit. And so, that definitely, breeds some humility for sure, but on like knowing, I do know what a good song is. I know what I like. I'm very confident in saying that, but that is also very different than knowing what the audience that you're playing for likes. And that's sometimes artists come up with building a fan base that likes what they do, sort of, or you kind of can come into a fan base and figure out what you do that would make sense for them. And so that's the game that, that's kind of like what my mindset is. And that's a little bit of the difference between, my plan originally versus, the opportunity that I have, now to reach a lot of people with country radio and those kinds of things. And that also, that style of music, whether it's streaming, or what have you, just the country, listener writ large, really just influences that stuff so much. And so then the game becomes, okay, where can I meet that target, as opposed to I'm just going to, put out stuff and then see what comes to it,
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you re-released kind of Prayed For You on, the coming EPs. Was that, did you always think you'd do that? Or was it, I'm going to use this song because I know it's good and I know that people love it and it'll attract people towards this? Was it kind of planned that way?
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I had a lot to do with that planning, at a certain point, especially when labels get involved and stuff, they have ways that that things go. They have interest in I feel like I know what a song is, and I feel like I know what I like, and if that's valuable, cool. And it's but I would I have my ideas about their job or whatever. You're like, or what a record label, like I have opinions about how music should be, or how I would like it to be, especially when it's mine. But I would, I'm not an expert, and the labels are an expert on how things get released. And so when I'm ready to, my favorite thing is new music, and I love making it and I love releasing it. And so of course, every time I have something I want to come out, I'm ready to go and progress. But Pray For You was such a, it was such a game changer for me that it anchored so much of what we did, and it still does. That the labels are, this is a long way of saying, like, they have way more to do with how songs are packaged and released than I necessarily do. And so I was surprised that Pray For You would be on multiple projects, but it's very common in this space. Things you just don't know. And so it's like, you kind of pick the hills you want to die on. And at the end of the day, everybody's, in theory, everybody's working for, the same goal. Right. And so they're like, well, this is going to get us to our goals. And so, I'll listen to an expert on that. But, it's like, those kind of things are just, there are things that aren't really high on my radar all the time, because, to me, at the end of the day, it's like, I want to make music that I like, that people will like, and put it out. And it's kind of like, here, you put it out kind of thing. And I'm not, super uptight about how that gets done. Although, having done it now for a little while, I do have my own opinions. So sorry about that long answer, but
no, I love a long answer. It's perfect. And I love that. So obviously, Prayed For You came out. You had all this success. You released another couple of projects pre and kind of within the pandemic, and then you're coming out of that. Do you find you've got like a brand new array of fans? Like, because I'm assuming your crowds and your shows and everything got so much bigger from kind of pre to post, because you had so much going on in between. Was it a shock to the system kind of getting back out there and all of a sudden having this change?
Well, it was kind of really the turning point with me of audience and things like that was before Prayed For You and after Prayed For You. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we released music during the pandemic and had a number one, on country radio during a pandemic. But because we couldn't tour on it, because of that thing, it's like it's not additive that way. It wasn't for us. It was like, now we're having to, you know, make up ground that we feel like that we've already, you know, had the pandemic not been there, that we would have already kind of dealt with, you know, already kind of, you know, plowed that ground. And so, you know, that's a little challenging, but it's like, I'm not going to complain about it, because, you know, my band, everybody's healthy, and we made it, and family too. And a lot of people were hurt a lot more than we were. So a lot more than I was. So, you know, the reality of it for us is that, you know, we are, you know, that one of my favorite songs that it was the #1, and, you know, I think is pretty close to going platinum, is like not a forgotten song, but definitely a, all the momentum that would, you know, carry typically is, it wasn't there, because we couldn't, you know, people weren't going to see shows, people weren't in their cars, you know, going to work to hear this song, you know, even when it was, you know, a hit on country radio. So, and people were streaming less, you know, because they're not in their cars, you know, during that pandemic part, and people are going back to music they already know, as opposed to, you know, discovering new things for us, you know, that we learned. So, that's been a little bit of just like a challenge, but in a good way, you know. So we get to, you know, the cure for that is more music, which I love. So.
Yeah, and well, actually, that leads on perfectly to what my next question was going to be, because obviously, when you have all this and you don't really get to tour the songs and really get them out there, when you kind of finally do go back, I'm assuming you've now got tons more songs that you want to play. Do you almost kind of forget that you've got all these projects that you've never sung live or you've never toured, and do you feel like you have to play them, or are you now like, no, let's just go to the next thing, let's get the new music out?
Yeah, I mean, I fall into that trap a lot. I think a lot of songwriters do too, of the latest thing you did is the best thing you did. And that can be true, but at the same time, you know, you felt that way. You know, I felt that way about the songs that I have now, that those songs, as I do these new songs now. So, you know, that's when having a good team is there to kind of help you and get some perspective, because it's like, sometimes it's hard to read the label of a bottle when you're inside it. You know, you need some outside perspective to know what really is what. And so, you know, for me, you know, that's definitely a tightrope that we walk. You know.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, I suppose, is when you are releasing these songs during, you know, when you can't play them live, you can't test them out on audiences. So
Right.
does that kind of rely, you know, lean into your decisions on what you release and what you play? Do you test songs out first, or do you just go with what you think's right?
Some we do some of both. I mean, I again, you know, it's like relying on a team of people, you know, kind of like a brain trust of you know, what works and what order of things to do. But we definitely do. Like, I'll play some live. I played a song the other night live that I had never played before live, and just worked up in sound check that was completely different from the demo, that I think is the way I want to do this song now, and it worked great, and people liked it. But at the same time, you want to stay true to what, you know, what you're doing and stuff. So it's like you kind of take all these, you know, all this imperfect information, and you try to just make the best decision, you know, possible. And again, you rely on people that have different perspective and different experience than you do. And that has served me pretty well, of being collaborative, has served me pretty well up to this point. So I try to err on that side as much as I can. But I have to this point, at least.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you've had to learn over the years, is to make sure you listen to everyone else around you as well, rather than kind of just going with what you want?
Yeah. And I mean, you want to listen to, like, yeah, I mean, you have to be selective about who you listen to, and you have to take into account what their motivations might be. And you know, like, not in anything nefarious. I mean, we all have our biases, you know, like, and not in a bad way. So those biases are really what you're soliciting out of people. You know, you want to know how this hits their ear. And because I know my biases of what I think a song is and what I like is sometimes very different from the country audience. So when it comes to a pile of songs that we all agree are good, which need to go in which order, I've never been like, I never thought that was that big a deal. I mean, picking a single is a little different, but but what you cut, what you do like that. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just, that's just been something that I've learned, something that I've done. And that is at least how I go about it. I know people are different and different strokes for different folks, but that seems to have worked for me.
Yeah, I love that. And talking of kind of new music and getting things out there, you've got a single out at the moment, Man Made. I know it's getting so much love and people are really relating to it, and it's such a great track. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind that song and where it came from, and how it ended up kind of being your lead single here?
Yeah, well, my manager found that song and brought it to me, and he's got a great ear for country music, especially like kind of mainstream country music. And this song was like had a just great melody, had a cool lyric that does some cool stuff. And then for me, was really what was very different is like I like heavy music, like your subject matter for the most part. Even Pray For You's got some melancholy to it. Everywhere But On. It's a breakup song. That Ain't Me No More. That's like a, kind of a heavier, like, I love that. That's the kind of music I love. I'm happiest I'm listening to heavy music. Like I like it. This song hit me like those songs do, and it has this positive vibe about it. And I love that. And I knew that was special, because they don't always hit me like that. If you can make a positive song, hit like that, then, to me, that's really special. So I couldn't wait to get in it and get in the studio and cut and produce it and put it out into the world. And we've been enjoying it being out for sure.
And I know you were on the Bobby Bones show a couple of weeks ago with your mum, and you were talking about how there's so many different kind of meanings behind the song, and for you, obviously the influence of your mum and women in your life. How do you think people are kind of taking that same interpretation, because there's kind of so many ways it can be taken?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's the beauty of a song. It's there's what the writers and the singers and the players is like what they what we all intend for the song to mean. But once you kind of release a something into the world, I mean, it's kind of open to interpretation, and so that's the beauty of it. So a woman made that man, it's like talking about you want to make your mama proud. I'm paying homage to like the women and the badass women in my family. It's also the reason that the falling in love part is also the reason that you do anything, a lot of times. And even when even in a world where sometimes like it's easy to fall into the trap of like thinking that anyone is a self-made man or self-made person, when it takes everybody, nobody got anywhere by themselves. And especially the women in our lives. I know how much my mom did for me and sacrificed, and I know how much motivation I have, from that. I know how much motivation I have from, love interests and things like that. I mean, that's the different ways that song can work, are that's a part of the beauty of the song.
And how nice is it to be able to share those experiences? I was watching the interview on the Bobby Bones show with your mum, and I just thought how nice for you to be able to kind of really bring her on this journey. And what's her reaction to it all and everything? What did she enjoy and love about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's a mom, so she loves everything all the time, that I do, which is like, it's you got to be careful about that, because my mom's really supportive, but which is great, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like when it comes to songs, I'm picking one, oh, I like that one, oh, I like that one, it's like they can't all be good, some of these are definitely not good, I know, but no, she's great. And I mean, it's like that comes from a very real, true place. We've been through a lot together, and she's she's the best. When I'm a parent, I hope to do the kind of job she did, and which I won't be able to, but I would like to try. But luckily, she'll be a grandma, so she'll be able to
she'll be there.
Do it again. It'll be great. Yeah.
I love that. Well, we're gonna wrap up relatively soon, but I have 3 questions that I ask everyone at the end of every podcast. So I am going to put you on the spot a little bit. They're all around 3. Right. Can you firstly name, songwriting wise, 3 songs that you wish you'd have written?
Absolutely. Great Day to Be Alive, Travis Tritt cut it, but Daryl Scott wrote it. That song, again, it's got some melancholy heavy to it, but it also is like a positive kind of thing. That's this great song, and that kind of came out of nowhere a little bit and hits. And there's so many of these songs. There's a Taylor Swift song off the Folklore record called The One, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it's perfect, man. I mean, just perfect. And especially, you know, it's like it's a very personal kind of vibe, very song. And so there's one. And then, like, you know, I would have loved to have written like I mean, there's so many. I mean, like Boys of Summer would have been awesome, you know, to write. Like what an incredible song. There's a bunch of like indie stuff. Like there's a Drive-By Trucker song called Zip City that changed my life. That'd be unbelievable. About every other song that Jason Isbell's ever written, I'd probably, you know, give a limb to have written. Yeah. I could go on and on and on. But
it's hard. It's hard to pick. Yeah. Okay, next one. 3 albums you couldn't live without.
Jagged Little Pill. What's the Story? Morning Glory. Well, Alanis Morissette and Oasis, and maybe like dang, I don't know. Only by the Night, that Kings of Leon record. But if I'm talking about country records, that I probably need to put a country record that's like that's in there. That first George Strait Greatest Hits record, which is like not a record, I guess, but you know, that was awesome. That was a really great one. Yeah. I love the last couple Eric Church records. I love there's that some of those Miranda stuff, like what is that, Wing or Angel? I can't remember the name of the record, but yeah, probably that, you know, maybe the Chief Eric Church record, I don't know, but or the new one, I don't care, I like them all.
Do you know, I've been doing this for 2 years and I have waited for someone to say Jagged Little Pill, and it's finally happened, so thank you. That's
the greatest record. That might be the greatest record of my lifetime. Have you seen the documentary on it, by the way?
Yes, I got to see her live literally about 2 weeks ago here in London, and it was the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, she was like 19 when she wrote most of that shit. I mean, are you kidding me? It's so special, man. And yeah.
It's one of the greatest, and I cannot believe no one said it up until now. Every time I sit here and I wait for someone to say it, and it's finally happened. So thank you.
Tyler Childers' Purgatory, that's another great record, kind of relatively recent. Sturgill Simpson's Ballad of Dude and Juanita, I've listened to that probably more than anything this year or last year. So those are some great ones. Dirty South, Drive-By Truckers, or Decoration Day. I could go on and on.
I love it. Okay, final question for you then. 3 people that you haven't yet worked with that you would love to work with. They can be anything: artists, songwriters, producers.
That's a great question. I named a bunch of Jay Joyce records just now, talking about records that I would like with Eric Church, and some of that Miranda stuff that I think is like unbelievable sounding stuff, like the platinum record and all that. Working with Jay Joyce might be pretty awesome. Collaborate, man, I would love to collaborate with like Lizzo or something kind of off genre would be, you know, kind of a lot of fun. Something that would be kind of unlikely, kind of mash up. That would be great. Yeah, who else? Shoot, like maybe like somebody like Kendrick Lamar that would bring different stuff to the table. You know, I could sing some country hooks to, you know, and spit a bar or two. That'd be fun. So,
I think the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
They really are. Oh, that is so great. Thank you. They're really good answers. I'm pleased with that.
Awesome. Good.
It has been so great chatting. As I said, you are back in the UK in a couple of months' time. We're super excited to have you back. I know there is a lot of people ready and waiting to see the shows, and I know you've got lots in the pipeline coming up. But thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with us and tell us some of the stories behind the songs. It's been really, really great to chat.
Awesome. Great to talk to you, and we'll see y'all soon here in a couple months.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.